everybody, and welcome back to the next part in my dialing in series for our Line 6 Helix. Today I'm taking a look at an amp model that surprisingly I actually have never taken a look at before, and I've had quite a few requests to do it, and that is the Peavey Panama amp model, which is Line 6's model of the Peavey 5150 amp. Made famous by Eddie Van Halen himself. Now, I did do a performance video with this, and it might seem like the logical thing to do would be to do a Van Halen song, but I didn't do that. As I was making this preset, it's kind of funny, every time I do one of these presets and I have to decide what performance video do I want to do to kind of showcase the preset that I just made. And I always just kind of let the preset sort of speak to me. And what I mean by that is, as I'm playing it, it almost always happens that like a particular song kind of just jumps into my head as I'm making the preset. I don't go into it with any preconceived idea of which song I want to do, but as I'm doing it, a song kind of always hits me. And this time it was Dawkins, In My Dreams. It just seemed like this worked really nicely for that riff, and the lead sound worked really nice. And again, I'm not professing this is anywhere even trying to duplicate George Lynch's tone off of that album, and nothing to do with that. It's just as I was doing it, that's what it reminded me of. So I did a performance video for In My Dreams by Dawkins. And I actually did the full song this time. I've been getting more into doing full songs rather than just the guitar solos. There is a guitar solo. I even did my own guitar solo at the end just because I thought the ending with that sort of repetitive rhythm part was getting a little bit boring. So I did some little ripping over top of that. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Check that out. Check out the whole video. There's some fun stuff going on in there. And you can hear how this preset ended up sounding in the mix. I thought it sounded pretty cool. Really nice amp model, and not one I've ever really messed around with. So let's jump over to HX Edit and see what we have going on. Okay, so if we look real quick, just another quick recap. LA Studio Comp at the end. For folks who've watched my videos, they know that I do this all the time. Typical settings: peak reduction of 5.5, gain of 5, mix at 100%. EQ, nothing on the EQ other than the low cuts and high cuts. Which I did try something a little different on this one. Low cut at 100 hertz, high cut all the way down to 7 kilohertz. Very low for me. A lot of times I'm up around 12, 11, 10 maybe. But I did something to kind of counteract that. I was trying some fun stuff here. Really do the low cuts, or sorry, the high cuts much lower, and then compensate elsewhere for that, okay? And I'll talk about that in a second. Reverb, just a bit of room reverb, decay of 5, pre-delay of 25 milliseconds, mix of 30%. I always like to at least have that on, just to give the direct, dry sound of, you know, any modeler, really. You're not getting any room ambience in there. So this is just to make it sound like it was, you know, an actual mic on a speaker cabinet recording in a room. Delay I do use, I have two snapshots here, rhythm and lead. So on the lead snapshot, I do a simple delay, set at a quarter note. You see the tempo up here is 133. I just tapped that into the backing track I used for In My Dreams. That's why it's set at that tempo. You can set it whatever you want. Feedback at 20%, mix at 30%. I did use a tilt EQ, and you'll notice it's quite dramatic. Center frequency is 650 hertz, and I turned it all the way to bright 60. And that's kind of counterbalancing, I guess we could say, the much lower high cut that I did, okay? So the high cut darkened it up, and then I brought a lot of that cut back into the sound by going to the tilt EQ and setting it to the bright 60. Cabs, I went with the 412 Uber V30, which is what I believe comes up stock with the Peavey Panama. And I set it 121 ribbon mic, 2 inches back to give it some beef. Again, because I went so much with the tilt EQ, I could get away with that because I had a fairly dark mic in the 121 ribbon and set fairly close to the speaker cabinet, okay? So that's those settings. And then on the amp, here's what I did. Drive on, let's go back to the rhythm here. So drive on the rhythm at 3.8, bass all the way up to 10, mids at 5.6, treble at 8.5, and presence at 9. I originally had the presence a little bit lower, and it sounded good on its own, but I kind of wanted it to cut more in the mix, and I think it needed a little bit more, so that presence control, bumping that up, seemed to help that. Channel volume at 10, master at 5, sag at 2.5, hum at 5, ripple at 5. Those are all, I didn't touch the deeper functions, okay? When we switch over to the lead snapshot, what happens is two things change. The drive gets pushed to 5, give it a little bit more gain, and the presence up to 9.4, okay, from 9. Very subtle little change there. And the delay gets engaged, okay? So let's go back to our rhythm snapshot, and let's do this. Let's turn everything off and see how this just sounds going into the speaker cabinets with all this sort of mastering section at the end, delays and reverbs and everything off. So this is going to be these settings into the speaker cabinet with the ribbon, R121 ribbon mic 2 inches back. And that sounded like this. Bring our compressor in. Just love the way that squashes things up. So let's bring our high and low cut in. So it smooths it out quite a bit. I'll bring that reverb in. Very subtle, right? Here's what the tilt EQ does now. This is going to really help it cut in the mix. So here it is again before, after. So it does thin it out quite a bit, but it was kind of required, you know, in the mix. I think if I was just sitting in a room playing, I might actually prefer this tone without that on. But get it into a mix and you're gonna probably want that cut and to get some of that bottom out of the way of the bass guitar and kick drum maybe. Okay, so we have that in. That is basically the rhythm sound that I ended up with for the performance video. So it works quite nicely in the mix. Sounded good. All right, so what about this lead tone? Well, when I switch over to that, we bump a little more gain into it and the delay comes in. So that's the tone, basically. Like I said, I didn't really design it set out to design it to be George Lynch or a Dawkins type of a tone, but it just worked out nicely for that. So go listen to the performance video, you can hear it there. This will be up on custom tone for those of you who need a patch that sounds something like that. It would probably work for a lot of different, metal, something that's, not overly high gain, but it'll work for a lot of different situations, I'm sure. So that'll be up on custom tone. You can grab that. Please like the video. Hope you enjoyed it. Please share the video if you did. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'll be back soon with some more content. And again, as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and ciao for now.